So I'm almost there. I'm about 15 minutes out. I've just been bumping music this whole time, getting amped. And so now that I'm very close to the casino, I like to take my time, relax, take deep breaths. Poker is a very patience-based game, so I'm gonna have to focus. I'm gonna have to think about what I'm gonna do. And yeah, let's go get it. Alright, so we're here. The time is 9:24. It was a nice 3-hour drive. Took us another 15 minutes to find a parking spot because it is packed. We're gonna go play 2-5. We're gonna play hopefully till 3 a.m. So 6 hours-ish. And yeah, let's go get it. Alright, so I accidentally deleted some of the footage, and one of it was the pocket sixes hand, but it was still a really cool hand. It was the first hand I sat down and played, so I'm going to talk about it. I immediately get to the table and sit down with the big blind option on me. I don't know the complete action, but I see that it's $25 to go. Look down at pocket sixes and make the call. It's 4 ways to a flop, and a glorious 6-8-3 with 2 diamonds comes out. So with this kind of board texture and the strength of my hand, it would really suck if it checks through and have a lot of bad scare cards come on the turn, like a diamond or a 9 or a 10. So I decided to lead out for a little over half pot, bet $65, and I get 1 caller. The turn is the king of clubs, which is a great card for me if I was trying to bluff at it. If I were to try and bluff at it, and it's a great card for his range too if you decide to float something like king queen or ace queen or something like that, ace king. So I decided to go ahead and bet again, half pot, 120 bucks, and he goes ahead and ships it all in for about 340. I snap him off. River comes the 7 of clubs. I show my sixes, and he turns over the nut 4-2 of diamonds for the missed flush draw on the flop. So the strength of these players are not the greatest, but it was a really good pot to win, especially being at my first hand. A couple orbits later, I pick up pocket aces under the gun. Now I've been getting a couple big hands under the gun. I had ace king suited at one point, which I raised to 20 bucks, and I got 2 callers. Another point I had pocket queens, which I opened to 20 bucks, and I got no one to call. And so this time I decided to mix up and decided to limp it in. So I go ahead and I limp in for $5. Action unfortunately just limps around. I have 5 other players limp in, and we go ahead and we see a flop of queen, jack, 4, rainbow. At this point I have to start getting value for my hand, so I go ahead and I bet around pot of 30 bucks. I get 2 callers, and we see a turn. The turn is the 8 of clubs. So now there's about 100 bucks in the pot. Against 2 players, aces are probably good here. No straights came in, no flush on the board. The turn doesn't bring a flush, so I'm pretty safe to bet my hand. I go ahead and I bet $65 on the turn. First guy folds, and the second guy, who's a relatively tight player, calls. River comes the queen of hearts, pairing the top card. Now, this isn't the best card for my range. It's a very, very strong card for his range, and the action is on him. He looks at his chips, he fiddles a little bit with them, and then he decides to check it over to me. At this point, I don't see that there's much value in the hand. The only real thing I can get to call me is a jack. I decide to call 2 streets. Other than that, I think a lot of the time he will have a missed draw, and so there's really not much value, and I don't want to have to put out a small bet and get raised here, so I'm just going to take this hand of showdown, seeing as I played it not the most effectively. So we do that, and we go ahead and check. We check, and we're good. He turns over king 10 for a missed straight draw, and we go ahead and we ship that $250 pot. So on to the second hand. I was getting dealt a lot of good premiums up under the gun, and I had ace king suited 2 times, I had ace queen suited, and made 4x open 20 bucks. This time I pick up pocket aces under the gun, and I decided to mix up my play a little bit and go for a limp, seeing as when I did watch the table and take a look at what happened when people did limp, there were a lot of aggressive players behind, so I thought if I limp in here, it'll kind of disguise the strength of my hand and I can get in a re-raise before the flop. Unfortunately, it ends up going 5 ways to the flop, which is terrible. My hand equity, it just reduces drastically, and we take a flop with 6 people. The flop comes down queen, jack, 4, rainbow, and it checks to me. from the big blind. So I decided to go ahead and just bet here. So I bet the value of my hand, and I bet 25 bucks, which is the pot. Folds around to this guy on the button, who's a really tight player. Seemed relatively competent about the game, so not too nervous right now. Still probably have the best hand, otherwise it would raise me. And so we go to the turn, just me and him. The turn is the 8 of diamonds, which does not complete anything except for 9-10. I don't really think this guy is a 9-10 kind of player. He seems to play more broadways, pairs, etc. So I go ahead and I bet $65 again, which is around the pot, a little over the pot. I really want to make sure that I'm pricing out his draws, and if he makes a bad call, he makes a bad call, and I gain value right there. And if he just has something like Queen 10 or King Queen, Queen 9, he is not going to fold because he has top pair. He's got a gut shot, or he's got just a strong hand. He's really not willing to fold here on the turn. He makes the call, and the river is the Queen of Hearts, pairing the top card. He thinks about it for a long time and immediately looks at his chips. So it's a big tell for players if they have a strong hand. So they'll look at their chips immediately and then look at the board. But he decides to check and not bet, thank God. It would have been a very difficult call on the river. Once he checks here, it's really like a give up. If anything that he's calling with on the flop, I doubt he's calling a jack 2 streets. If he had a queen, he would have made a bet here. And if he has a queen, he's not folding, and I'm not beating it. So I decided to go ahead and check back, turn over my aces, and he turns over King 10 from this straight. It's 2 orbits later, and it's against the same guy I stacked in the first hand with pocket 6s. Starts with him. He limps under the gun. The second player next to him limps, and then it folds around to me. I've got pocket 9s on the button, so I raise it up to $20. It folds around to the limpers, and they both make the call. So we go 3-way to a flop, and the flop is 2-4-6 rainbow. It's a pretty good flop for my hand. They check to me, and I continuation with the bet of $40. They both think about it. First player calls, the other player folds. And then we see a turn of the 2 of clubs. So this turn now improves my hand. It allows me to beat hands like 6-4 if he happened to have that, and it also removes some set combinations from his hands like pocket 2s. He can still have pocket 4s and pocket 6s, but now it makes it less likely for his range of hands to be beating me. So he checks to me, and on this turn card I decide to make a sizable bet of about $90. He thinks about it for a second, and then he goes ahead and makes the call. The river is the 8 of diamonds, bringing no flush, but it does complete the 5-7 if he had a straight. I'm not too concerned with this. It's also a decent card because he was floating with something like 7-8. Now he's kind of forced to call now that he's quote-unquote made his hand, and it doesn't really scare a card like a 6, so if he happened to put me on ace-king, he's still not going to fold. So in order to include hands like that in my range, I decide to make a normal sized bet, a little smaller, around half pot, when he checked to me, and I go ahead and bet $120, and he immediately makes the call. I turn over my 9s, and they were good, and he turned over 5-6. So the final hand that I will discuss is a hand that I think I could have played a lot better. I think I just missed a bet here that would have helped me take down the pot, but here's how it went. So I had 8-9 of diamonds on the button. There were 3 limpers ahead of me, and I decided to make it 25 to go. With 100 big blinds, effective at 2-5. Fold, fold, fold. First 2 limpers call, and the last limper folds. So it's 3 ways to the flop. The flop is 3-8 jack with 2 diamonds. It checks to me, and I go ahead and bet $35. The first player folds, the second player contemplates, and then he makes the call. The turn comes the 10 of diamond, or the 10 of clubs, bringing an open and a straight draw for me, along with my flush draw. He checks to me, and here's where I make the mistake, and I think I want to realize my equity. I don't want to have to be check raised on this turn, and be forced to fold if we decide to check jam or something like that. So I checked back, and in hindsight, I really think that we should be betting our hand here. It is very strong. It is more than just an open and a straight draw. It's more than just a flush draw. It's a combination of the 2. So most of the time, we're going to make our hand on the river. And when we do, we want to make sure that the pot's big enough so that we do get paid. When we check here and we do hit our straight card or our flush card on the turn, we don't necessarily always get paid off because it isn't disguised anymore. The bet check bet line is very common with draws that get there on the river. So if we can bet here, we can also maximize our fold equity. But I check back. River comes the 2 of clubs, which just breaks off completely. He checks, and at this point, I don't see the need to turn my hand into a bluff. I've got great showdown value. Or not great, but I do have showdown value, and decide to check back. And he turns over King 8 offsuit for a better pair of 8s. And definitely thinking over this hand again. Got a lot of motorcycles in Springfield, a lot. after reviewing the hand and thinking about it more, king 8, queen 8, stuff like that, these are hands that will probably fold the turn to another bet or another barrel. So if I bet here, I probably would have won. Holy shit, I've been on 5 different levels and there is not a single parking spot available. It is gonna be a good night. Oh my God, there are tons of people here.